Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and gender fluids of every denomination, and welcome to the Boiler Room. I'm Kit Cox. I'm going to say a lot, and probably sort of like a lot, so you'll be able to get ready for that. We are here with a podcast where we will be introducing you to the world of literature, the world of steampunk, the world of horror, mainly focusing on the works of H.P. Lovecraft, but I'm sure we'll divulge away from that quite regularly, and the world of magic, and I don't mean Harry Potter type magic, although I'm sure trips to the studio will be talked about quite regularly, but we'll be talking about actual magic as well. So, as I said, I'm your host, Kit Cox, and I have with me my co-hosts. Now, unfortunately, we only have two co-hosts with me today. It's normally going to be like the four of us down here. But the two co-hosts I have with me today, I have Katie. Say hello, Kate. Don't wave, Katie.
I can't help it. I always do that. No. Hello, I'm Katie, who Kit will probably take the mick out of me for most of the time.
I'm going to take the mick out of everybody.
Everyone.
I think that's my role here, to be honest with you.
I'm Katie, and I'm one of the organisers of Great Kent Citations, the local Kent Steampunk group, and we're talking to you about steampunk.
Wow, does that mean we can have one of those great discussions here? What is steampunk?
Oh, yeah, the debate of what is steampunk.
The debate of what is steampunk is brilliant. I think every steampunk group should have one of those. And I'd also like to introduce you to Mark.
Good evening.
Mark, who suddenly stepped out of the 1950s.
Yeah, I'm getting back into the BBC now.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark.
Well, I consider myself like a Kurt Russell from the 1982 version of The Thing. Sort of, hairy and rather
drunk.
Chilly at times. Drunk? Oh, how dare you.
I love that. Can I just point out, I love the fact you put a phone voice on.
Phone voice?
You don't normally sound.
This is the first time I think I've ever heard you sound like this ever.
If you could actually see me, I'll probably be doing that bit that they did from Spot.
I quite like the idea you managed to introduce yourself as Kurt Russell, knowing that no one can see what you actually look like.
I'm no fool, Yes, like Kurt Russell on acid.
Yeah, a bit blurry.
Yeah, or if Kurt Russell was a Wookiee.
Waffle?
Ruffle?
Waffle.
Kurt Ruffle.
Waffle.
Yeah.
So Kurt.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Why are you actually here again?
Well, I'm going to talk to you today about the writings of H.P. Lovecraft and friends.
Yeah, and for the rest of the sort of like podcasts, are you just always going to be talking about H.P. Lovecraft? Are you going to be talking about other stuff as well?
Oh no, I can take piss too.
yeah, I know. And there you go, that was the first swear of the podcast, which means that we've already gone up to a PG rating.
5 points.
As long as we don't drop the speed bomb, we should be okay. So,
continuity.
The person that we have missing, we do have Rich missing, and Rich is our resident wizard.
Not here due to unforeseen circumstances.
We said that, and I was trying my hardest not to laugh as I said resident wizard. So but then Katie laughed on the side of me.
I'm such a loving girlfriend.
She is so loving as a girlfriend. So, yeah, Katie and Rich are an item, and so are Mark and I.
What? No. I have a girlfriend. Her name's Louise.
Yeah, no one's ever seen Louise. We don't know who she is. So we think she's imaginary. He often stands in the room and starts talking to her. Says she brought cake, but yeah. Just to introduce myself, I will be talking about literature. As you probably know from my name and the fact you've tuned into this podcast, I am the world famous author and illustrator Kit Cox.
Supposed to be taking this seriously.
Yeah. And so I will be talking about the world of writing, what it's like to be a writer, taking questions and answering questions as well about writing, and also talking about literature and the books which inspire me from many worlds of horror, magic, steampunk, the lot. So I think the best thing to do now is we're going to throw the floor open to Katie. And Katie is going to talk to you very much about Steampunk.
The world of steampunk and what we know. That sounded really dramatic there.
It did, yeah. I love the fact it's like Katie is the only person that hasn't written anything down.
I
by the way, everybody.
I had my first set of notes.
It basically looks like
That's
she.
10 words.
No, it's 6.
Katie looks like she did her homework on the bus on the way to school, where the rest of us actually
I waffle
prepared.
through all my talks and stuff. I waffle through, so I shall waffle through this and be my normal self.
Yeah, far away.
I thought I'd start off with doing a quick introduction to what our group is, which is Great Expectations.
By the way, have we said the name of what we're doing here? Have we said that we're the Boiler Room?
Yeah,
Did I say that several
did.
times? All right, that's
You did.
okay.
Or was that in the test?
You could, I don't know, that could have been in the test one, which we did earlier, before Katie had to go to the toilet again.
I went once.
She's flushing again.
So, as you can probably hear, we are in the boiler room of an old Victorian submarine, and hence all the weird noises you can probably hear bubbling around outside. But that's where we are. We're basically the Beatles in a yellow submarine, except ours is a bit knackered. But
More rustic, I think.
yeah, rustic. But we've come down to the
submarine.
boiler room because there's far too much noise going on upstairs and far too much drinking. So like on the main decks with the crew. So that's where we are. Sorry, I interrupted you,
You
Katie.
did.
It was very rude of me.
It was.
But that's going to be my persona in this podcast
interrupting
from
people.
now on.
Well, why change from life?
That's it, exactly. I think I'm more important than the rest of you. So
Yeah.
get on with it.
Okay.
What is steampunk?
What is steampunk? Oh God, don't ask that question.
Okay,
No. Now you have asked the dreaded question, what is steampunk? I might as well get that one over and done with. And like I say to a lot of people during some of our talks, there are millions of answers which I've heard. Probably not millions, that's an exaggeration.
3 or
but
4.
No, yeah, 3 or 4. There's lots of
Shall
answers.
we do like a what do we think steampunk
Yeah,
is?
that'd
Shall we
be
start
good.
with what does Katie?
So,
what do you think?
What
steampunk
do
is?
I think steampunk is?
Today,
At this moment.
it's right moment.
When I hear what is steampunk, I feel it is a fashion and lifestyle movement which is based off the literature of the Victorian time. So the works of H.G. Wells and Jules Verne sort of brought to life somewhat through invention and through costumes. So taking, in terms of the fashion side of steampunk, which is the more prominent side, it's the Victoriana, or the base of a Victorian outfit which has been adapted and changed to look more science fiction and a bit more weird, really. It's Victorian plus all the weirdness with it and adapting it to the industrial sort of revolution era and all that jazz. And stick some and wear some goggles.
Nice.
And, yeah.
You're wearing some goggles
I
now.
am. I thought I would wear them for a podcast where you can't see them.
That's it. No one can see you, don't worry. So Mark, what I was going to say, I'd just like to point out that we are all steampunks. So this isn't like we're being introduced to it for the first time. So Mark, what do you think of steampunk? What is steampunk to you?
I like a lady in a corset. It's just fun.
There's websites you can go to for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got a catalogue at home. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. You meet lots of new friends. A bit tourism. Go to sites that you're interested in with the history. And a cup of tea, slice of cake. Burlesque. I'm doing the erming for you there. There's lots of erming around here.
Yeah.
Burlesque, film trips, restaurants,
Lots of pubs.
pubs.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So what do I sort of like? For me, steampunk is very. I think it's a genre which changes daily, depending on who you talk to. So you can go to one steampunk event and it will be one thing, and you can go to another steampunk event. I kind of got into it through the science fiction side of it, rather than the dressing up. So I got into it through reading and drawings and things like that. I like the props that people make. There's some fantastic prop makers out there. I'd love to give a shout out to a few of those. There's Adrian Wink, who comes from the Great Kent Spectations crew. There's Ian Crichton, who's also a member of the Great Kent Spectations crew. We have Arno, who is the cobbler elf, and he's an amazing artist, so as well as a great tradesman, keeping an old tradition alive of shoemaking, but he brings that as well into his leathercraft. So there's a good few makers out there, and I like those props and I like that art style. And I think that's what steampunk is to me, to be honest with you. So, right, that's what steampunk is to us. So, what more do you have to say, Katie?
Well, all of those, probably the three of those all put together, is a more of an overall of what, if you asked about 10 steampunks, that's probably what you'd get out of the 10 of us. But no, that kind of sums it up quite nicely. Steampunk is the Victorian-ish science fiction side of things, but then it also has dozens of crossovers. So nowadays,
so what is Great Kent Spectations then?
Great Kent Spectations is the local steampunk group to Kent. It started about 5 years ago with 4 people dressed up in steampunk gear, one of which is in the room, who is Mark. They dressed up in steampunk gear for the first time. Well, not for yeah, it probably was for the first time when you first went.
We went abroad to an event. Well, by abroad I mean out of the county.
Down the road.
And then when we discovered we liked it, then we.
And there was four steampunks at the Rochester Dickens Festival, which goes on twice a year already. And they went and just was in steampunk gear amongst the reenactors and amongst the normal sort of public, and you'd kind of first start to make the group, and we're giving out cards and things if you saw anyone who was a like-minded sort of dresser. And then
we'd give them a card.
That's how they recruited me at the traffic lights.
It's very true.
Wow.
The Christmas
There
Dickens.
You go, Katie recruited under a red light.
Yeah.
Thank you, Francis.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
And then 5 years from there, we've come to now where we run events. We kind of help out. We help to run events. Plus, the boiler room's broken.
That's it.
We've come to a stop, Captain.
I think we've pulled into a port somewhere. That's nice. I was going to say we'd be able to get off it. Probably doing a run or something like that. So,
yeah.
Who knows? It's a mystery. So, Katie, like, everyone's touching stuff. I don't know why everyone's touching stuff. As if we're suddenly going to start up again. We're not. The boiler room has come to a stop.
But yeah, we
probably will stop everyone wanting to go to the toilet now. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. But yeah, we help on events. We get invited to venues kind of local to Kent to help out at events already running, and we've done quite a lot. We do a big event every year at the Chatham Dockyards, and we've been doing that for 4 years. Which is now called the Steampunk Village, and we have lots of traders, and then we go to more local events.
How can people because you're running out of time, Katie, but it's what happens when you don't when you waffle and don't write stuff down.
When you interrupt me about stuff. Yeah. But so how can people join us is the main thing.
How can people
join
you?
How can people find out about the many events we run throughout the year?
Just cut to the chase, Katie.
Shut up. We mainly run through Facebook, so you can find us on Facebook by going to Great Kent Spectations, and then it's a closed group that you can join, and one of our many admins will accept you. And if you aren't on Facebook but you kind of want to know about more not recent events, what events are coming up soon, you can drop us an email at greatkentspectations@hotmail.co.uk, and I'll probably reply and take you from there. There's a few people on there, but I'm normally the little the email mouse.
The email monkey.
Yes, the email monkey.
Brilliant.
So yeah, join us.
I just want to point out for anyone before anyone writes in with complaints that I interrupted Katie too much and used up her time. We have gone so far over her time that I took into consideration my interruptions as well.
Thank you.
So just write it down next time. Wow, rude hand gestures when there's no video cameras to show her mummy.
I do it to my mum.
It's true, she does.
So I'm now going to throw the floor open to Mark, and Mark is going to talk to us about horror.
Good evening. I'm Mark, and I run HP Lovecraft UK, the Facebook group for HP Lovecraft. Howard Philip Lovecraft, an American author. A brief explanation about cosmic horror. Firstly, what is Gothic horror? Gothic horror is ghost stories, vampires, werewolves, the earthly fears of mankind of punishment for being evil, curses, but all essentially human or formerly human, so anthropomorphic. Humanity is at its centre. Cosmic horror. Humans are an insignificant being in a vast universe and multi-planes of existence. There are living beings with abilities and technologies that are so far above humanity's experience that they would appear as magic, and that beings with immortal time frames appear as gods. Gods that regard us at best as slaves, worshippers, and at worst food, something to play with and experiment on, or even in the smallest way just inconvenient. Those gods have non-human minions. There are some less advanced alien races that have visited Earth, and some still do. They sometimes fight each other and also use humans as pawns. Very basically, you can be killed or driven mad by any contact with them. Everyone else has just gone silent. Never mind.
I didn't want to interrupt.
I
So
know.
like you've got such a flow on. So
Yes,
like,
I'm giving it all.
I was
gonna
That's
say,
enough, you can stop now.
See, that's how to put me down, Casey.
Sorry about that. The forerunners
Ask me a
of
question
cosmic
and you
horror.
say, Shut up.
Shut up.
Robert W. Chambers, 1865 to 1933, an American born in Brooklyn, New York, an artist, illustrator and writer, wrote a series of connected short stories called The King in Yellow in 1895. These would be described as weird fiction and detail people being driven mad by reading a book. His one wasn't quite cosmic horror, but William Hope Hodgman, 1877 to 1918, an Englishman born in Blackmore End, Essex. He was a writer, a strongman, sailor, poet and soldier. Wrote mainly adventure stories about sailing and detective stories. However, he wrote two that were early cosmic horror, The House on the Borderland in 1908 and The Nightland in 1912. He was cut short on his writing career shortly, I'm afraid, because he was killed in action during an artillery barrage at the Fourth Battle of Ypres.
Wow.
He was a lieutenant in the Royal Artillery. Lovecraft had a circle of friends who were writers with him. It could be the Lovecraft cycle or the Smith's Circle. There was Howard Philip Lovecraft, 1890 to 1937, an American born in Providence, Rhode Island. He was a poet and prolific writer of correspondence, writer of horror and cosmic horror stories. Creator of the Cthulhu mythos. He actually preferred his creation, the dark god Yog-Sothoth, and called the stories Yog-Sothery. He died from cancer of the small intestine and he is buried in a family plot at Swan Point Cemetery, Providence, Rhode Island. In 1977, fans erected an additional headstone at the cemetery with his name, birth and death dates on it, plus a quote, "I am Providence." He was so influential that he didn't vanish entirely, as many of the pulp fiction writers do. He actually has inspired people like Stephen King, Brian Lumley and Ramsey Campbell. There's other writers as well that were in his circle. Robert Irving Howard, or R.E. Howard, who was 1906 to 1936. He was an American born in Pista, Texas. He was a bodybuilder, amateur boxer and author. He wrote Conan the Barbarian, Solomon Kane and King Kull for fantasy, but he also added on other Lovecraftian stories once they actually started talking to each other. The Blackstone, Children of the Night and Cairn of the Headland. He would become known as Two Gun Bob in correspondence. Yeah, good one that. There's also...
That just sounds like a nickname you give yourself, doesn't it?
Oh, I think so.
Two Gun Bob.
I'm Two Gun Bob. Yeah, of course you are.
And then there's...
That's not what we call you when you're not here.
And then there's Clark Ashton Smith. He was born in Long Valley, California, and he was a poet, painter, sculptor, and prolific author of fantasy, science fiction, and horror stories. It could either be called the Lovecraft Circle or the Clark Ashton Smith Circle because he was equally as important. They wrote stories to each other on a continuing basis and submitted stories to Weird Tales magazine. Lovecraft wrote a fan letter to Clark Ashton Smith in 1922, and they conspired.
Conspired, come on.
They conspired until
You can
he
do it.
died.
Come on, work with it.
Oh, I've run out of time, haven't I?
No, you haven't.
No.
you
Have I not?
No, keep going.
I thought I only had 20 minutes. Yes. I've ruined that completely, haven't I? Yes, go on then.
You got up to conspired, and then we conspired to throw you off the point.
I did it all myself. So apart from those three, there was also August Derleth, an American born in Sauk City, Wisconsin. He was a writer and anthologist, also Lovecraft's friend, and posthumously his publisher and promoter. He can be thanked for keeping the memory of Lovecraft alive. He also added to the Cthulhu mythos its title, but also added the themes of 4 elements, earth, air, fire and water. He also added the themes of gods of good that humans could seek support from. This is not something, in my opinion, that Lovecraft envisioned, as it detracts from the whole hopelessness and indifference of the universe. They all dreamed of a greater thing than mankind and of things without They dreamed of greater things than mankind and of things without man's mortality and frailty. The legacy, influences and readings from stories shall come another dark night from the basement.
Woo! The greater good. You set the bird off.
We have a bird here. This is our Twitter. So we record stuff directly to the bird, and it flies it out to Tinternet. So.
Can we do that again? That was rubbish.
No, we can't do that again. You weren't rubbish.
It was very good.
So it was very entertaining. So I mean, the big question is, so H.P. Lovecraft, he wasn't famous for writing at all, was he, during his lifetime?
He was published in Weird Tales, as were the other 3.
Yeah.
He sold the pieces to them. He eked out an existence, proofreading other people's work, correcting, and submitting small stories which he got paid for. And he was an editor briefly, I think, as well.
Yeah.
But his family fortunes sort of like passed away, unfortunately, with his grandfather.
Right.
So he eked out an existence. He wasn't particularly famous at the time, and he was only sort of dragged back into the light by the work of August Derleth and later on in the 1980s, role-playing games and films.
Yeah. It's quite funny because I do a talk about different writers and how when they're writing, their main characters are inspired by them. And it's quite funny that pretty much all of H.P. Lovecraft's characters are quite tortured and down on their luck. And I think someone did a version where they used his character Randolph Carter in a film, just a fan-made film, but they tried to use the best description they could possibly get of Randolph Carter from the books. And the guy they cast could have easily been cast in a biopic of H.P. Lovecraft. They were so similar in look. Definitely a man that was inspired by probably his own suffering, which is such a shame, because I mean nowadays we see, as you said, he's one of the great pulp writers, which is fantastic to still be around and influencing such big names, but never actually saw any of that fame himself when he was alive, which, as I said, a real shame. Now, normally we would move straight from horror into magic, so I don't know, the Defence Against the Dark Arts or something like that. So, but unfortunately, Richard, who is, as I said, our wizard, isn't actually able to be with us. He's been trapped in the ether, fighting some kind of pan-dimensional demons or something. I'm not quite 100% sure.
Yeah.
The
bog of eternal stench.
The bog of eternal stench. I was going to say it. Wow. It's like subliminal messages of what might be wrong with Richard.
Subliminal?
Or just downright sort of like bliminal.
Yeah.
Bliminal. So we won't be talking about magic today because Richard is our expert. Richard makes wands. He's fully versed on magical teachings and things like that. So he will be here and keeping us up to date with the world of magic and witchcraft and wizardry and things like that. Not a game of Quidditch in sight. So that's what he'll be doing. But while he's not here and we are in his section, how did the rest of you feel about magic? So we won't ask Katie because Katie is Richard's girlfriend, so like, I'm sure he already brings the magic.
Ding dong.
But so I mean, obviously you hang out with Richard all the time. But what are your feelings about?
Richard hangs out a lot.
Yeah,
Speak for yourself.
It's that Wizard's robe. It doesn't close at the front, does it?
Yeah.
So what's your feelings on magic?
I don't know. It's an odd thing to sort of. It's an odd thing to kind of get someone's opinion on, because obviously if you believe in that thing, that's what you kind of truly believe in.
Yeah, it's religion at the end of the day. I mean, if you believe it, you believe it.
Mm-hmm. And we have friends who are pagans, and they are, that's what they believe, and they're lovely people, and they kind of introduce us a bit into what they like. And Rich obviously follows it, and he believes it, and I think it's just an interesting thing to kind of get to know. It's a type of religion which is much more about nature and returning what you take. So the wands he makes are all, it's like a trade with nature to get the materials to make that wand. You make a trade with nature to be able to kind of take what you need.
But how are your feelings? I was going to say, I'm sure Richard was
I know, but I believe there's something there, but I'm not a particularly religious person on the whole of things anyway. Okay. So if I were to believe in something more, I probably would believe in that side of things, the nature side of religion and that element. And
I like the if I believed, I'd believe in this, but I don't.
I don't believe in that side of things. And I completely respect anyone who does believe any religion they choose to follow, and we, as I say, we've got friends who are pagans, and it's a lovely thing to kind of learn more about as well, and a beautiful kind of thing to
I'm going to throw that open. Sorry, I'm going to cut you short there.
No. Again.
So we are running out of time.
Go for it. Go for it.
A soundbite from Mark on what you think of magic.
I believe it brings a rich texture to a story.
Yeah.
But personally, no, I don't believe.
That's fair enough. I think there's things I've stumbled across throughout my life which would make me believe, again, very much like Katie, that I can't rule it out, but I can't 100% say that sort of like I believe. I'm not 100% sure. I believe in conjuring. I'm sure we'll get some guests. Conjuring.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure we'll get some guests on here in future, and a few of those mesmerists and things like that. So if we're getting guests on, we can get a few of those on, because it'd be quite interesting. Because I really do. I like seeing stage magic, but I don't know if I believe in magic.
Real magic.
But real magic, not stage magic is fake magic, but real magic.
It's, like an illusion compared.
No, I know what you mean. So normally I would say something about my writing and illustration. I think the thing that I'll do with that is, if people actually have questions then about how to get published, the writing world, then we can do that. That's not a problem at all in the future. But we only wanted to keep this to half an hour at a time, because we know everyone's attention spans are quite slim, and we are able to waffle for the best of them, as you can hear from both Katie and myself, whereas Mark keeps it concise.
Plenty of erms though.
Exactly, plenty of erms. We like the erms. So we've got the last part, the last few seconds. It's been fantastic for you to join us for this half hour in the boiler room. It's glad that we've parked up. I think we're now going to go out and find where the submarine has ended up taking us. And probably give that bird a little bit of a flight, because it's obviously getting a bit fractious in here.
Oh no, tropical island with volcano again.
Is that a dinosaur I see in the background?
Steaming mangrove swamps. I've had enough.
As long as we can find
steaming mangrove swamps.
I want a nice tiki bar, and then we'll be good. But anyway, so I'd just like to say, thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to my co-hosts today. So to Katie from the Great Kent Spectations, thank you.
Thank you for hosting and for putting up with my waffling.
You're going to be here. You're going to be here every week.
Yay, waffling forever.
Yeah. And I'd like to say thank you to Mark. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kit. It's been a delight.
And Mark will be heading back off to the 1920s. So at the moment,
Here's a little one I tossed up.
If you would like to drop us any questions, please drop them down in the comments below, and we'll try and answer them next week, which ones we can. And we'll try not to go over too much. But again, Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the Boiler Room. We have 10 seconds. Do we have a closing theme tune? No.
No.
You remind me of the babe.
What babe?
The babe with power.
What
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Who do?
You do.
You do?